The recent video, and there's a lot of chatter about this in Asia, about the prophecies of Ria Tatsuki about what is going to happen this year in July. Specifically, she seems to mention July the 5th. And people have been asking me, because I did a video on this, is she Catholic? And I said, not that I'm aware of. I am just interested in this phenomenon when it's all over the secular media. Like Newsweek have reported it. There's been an 80% drop in tourists planning to arrive during that time, late June and in July. This is all over Asian media. And seemingly there's another person in Thailand that is also giving kind of this other forewarning. And why it captured my imagination more than anything else, and I'm not doing this video to feed people's fears about these things, but all through the course of history, but in our own faith, in the Catholic faith, we have people that warn us, that kind of prepare us. God continuously prepares his people for different events. We call them prophets. Padre Pio, for example, a Catholic saint, a man went to him once and he said to him, well, I'm going to be studying, I'm going to go off studying. And Padre Pio, no, you're going to die, so prepare yourself for death. And after that, not a short time later, the man did die. People say that's a very morbid thing, but I do believe that saints sometimes are there to prepare us for events that maybe we're not prepared for, and we're not willing to prepare ourselves for. In the Catholic world, you have in Rwanda, you have Our Lady of Kibeho, who appeared about 10 years before the genocide, warning people about what could be coming. And, her warnings played out in the sense that you had over 1 million people slaughtered not long after those apparitions. In Ireland, 40 years ago, the year of the All-Ireland Rosary Rally that started, we had a series of events and moving statues and apparitions in Ireland that the church at the time poo-pooed down. Hallucinations, mass hysteria, people are watching too much RTE. And locally, Our Lady appeared with a message of faith and hope. That is the only message she gave. It wasn't a moving statue. It was an actual apparition to 4 girls with the message faith and hope. And I absolutely do believe that that's was a warning to us Irish to have faith and hope in really what was about to come on top of the Irish church, which sadly did happen with Bishop Casey and the sex abuse scandals and everything that was being uncovered, which a lot of people found very unsettling at the time. As regards these Japanese warnings as such, what struck me at the time was this lady, Rio Tatsuki, is also really tying into Sister Agnes Sasagawa of Akita. If you want to go back and look at the events of those apparitions in Akita, Japan, which is at the same parallel, or same, it's the same geographical parallel as Fatima in Portugal. Small thing. It's also on the west coast, like in Portugal. Just something that always hit me. But Sister Agnes, and this is in the Catholic world an approved apparition, so it's got the Constat de Supernaturalitate, which was the grading that these events were given. So Constat de Supernaturalitate, so that we have to take it more or less seriously. And on the 5th of July, 1973, Sister Agnes a cross appears on one of her hands, and a cross starts to appear on the hand of the statue of Our Lady of Akita. And that statue of Our Lady of Akita cried human tears 101 times over many years. And Sister Agnes received some very stark prophecies about, and one of the sentences was, fire will fall from the sky. Now, you can disregard this if you want. You know, people are free to disregard private revelation if they want, but we would be stupid to disregard all of the signs and the messages from various different places that have come to warn us. You know, we can put our heads in the sand and say, no, it's all conspiracy, Catholic conspiracy, nonsense, blah, blah, blah. Let's get rid of it. Let's get with the new synodal plan for the church. This is where we're going, and forget, whether we like it or not, these prophecies exist. These warnings exist, and not just Akita, but Kibeho, Medjugorje, also coming at a time, Our Lady coming as the Queen of Peace, Mir, in a place in Europe which was about to experience incredible slaughter and pain. Warning. Ireland in the 1985 events, a warning. Fatima, a warning. La Salette, a warning. Tre Fontane, and you could go on and on and on and on. But the heaven warning us, if we do not amend our life, we will bring on ourselves. And again, we bring these chastisements sometimes on ourselves by not listening to heaven. And what is interesting for me about this possible event in July is, looking at the science. Japan sits, I think, about 10% of the active volcano sit in Japan. And Japan, its territory goes, north, the coastline of Russia, North Korea, South Korea, China, all the way down to Taiwan. So some of the islands that it has, practically go down to Taiwan. It's a very, very, very long territorial country, including the islands. And over 7,000 years ago, there was a level 7 eruption, which, if you were to translate it back today, how many people would die if that same eruption in that same place were to happen? You'd be looking at 150,000 people possibly dying, not just from the tsunamis and the earthquakes, but from the amount of ash and the disruption. Now, again, this isn't conspiracy. The last time the world experienced a level 7 volcanic eruption is 200 years ago in the 1800s in Indonesia, which by all accounts, had effects on our climate and possibly, who knows, impacted the potato famine 20 years later in Ireland. You can go back and study these historical events. Basically, what I'm saying to people with my video, we shouldn't be naive to think that something like of this scale could happen. We have to look back at our own history in Europe, and if we go to the island of Santorini, that eruption which happened 3,000 years ago was a massive eruption, which, if it were to happen today in the same place, you'd be looking up to 150,000 deaths from the eruption, from the tsunami that could have happened, impacting all of that region. I mean, just after I left Mount Athos, not a few weeks, last week, there was a quite a large earthquake up there on nearly 5 on the Richter scale, and some chimneys knocked down, plaster falling from the monasteries. Some places had to close to get them structurally checked and so forth. So look, these events happen, and I think the fact that this event in Japan, the dates in the chat that has been predicted in Japan for this, really apocalyptic event in many senses, are strangely overlapping with Our Lady of Akita. That's my only observation. I just think it is, a strange coincidence that the two prophecies kind of tie into each other. The sign of the cross appearing on her hand and on the hand of Our Lady, actually. The messages that start to come on the 6th of July 1973, culminating up to the messages on the 13th of October 1973. Again, constate supernaturalitate, the highest level of approval that you can get for these messages. And the local bishop went to Rome and met with Cardinal Ratzinger, the prefect for the doctrine of the faith at the time, to present the details from him. And according to Cardinal Ratzinger, he said, I don't need to read more. This is the third secret of Fatima. This is really what was said at the time in the 1980s, when the bishop went there to really get Rome's support in discerning whether these messages and events should be approved. And now we have this, prophecy, not by a Catholic prophet, but kind of, warning people something could be coming. Whether we like it or not, the world will experience these events at some stage. Today, tomorrow, I suppose we cannot worry, but when somebody warns us, when a prophet warns people, we should take heed, in my opinion. We shouldn't just say, "Oh, it's all nonsense," Again, Our Lady of Akita came to warn us. And these events could, in itself, it couldn't be just the natural disaster that triggers something. But for example, if this disaster is predicted to happen at the magnitude that it's predicted to happen, it will have a major natural disaster impact on Taiwan, which, weak Taiwan, could cause other events to cascade as well, with Japan or China invading, taking back Taiwan, opportunity for China to flex its muscle in the region, which many have predicted, etc., etc. Disasters are a great time for people take opportunities of these disasters. So that is my assessment on this supposed July prophecy of a great tsunami. I think could be caused by, a seismic 7 eruption. Who knows? And again, it's not beyond the science of that region. It has happened there before. The last time was 7,000 years ago. We had really a major caldera erupted. And 7,000 years ago, in human terms, isn't ancient history. It's, in geological terms, it's pretty recent. And humanity hasn't, in modern times, we haven't experienced this type of disaster. We just think things are going to continue on as normal. But this thing will happen. And it will have a major impact in the world, not just in that place, but you think of all of the shipping lines, our supply chains, Taiwan, major producer of chips, microchips. So the whole region is decimated by a natural disaster. Ports gone, shipping lines, etc., etc. The ripple effects out to the whole world, America, Europe, and so forth, will be catastrophic, because we are so interconnected with these geographies. We fail to realize that any this type of natural disaster, you're looking at 50, 60, 70 years maybe for the world to recover to it. And if the amount of ash and gases are released by such an eruption, you're also looking at the world's weather being altered. Could happen. It's known in history to happen. We just remember back with the Iceland eruption and it impacting flights in Europe, etc., etc. So I wouldn't take this lightly, these prophecies, these warnings of Our Lady of Akita, Rio Tatsuki, this other lady in Thailand. Rio Tatsuki seems to be very accurate in what she said about certain events. And so I don't think you can just, dismiss it. But you can say I'm a conspiracy theorist. I just thought, oh, hold on a second. These two events, these two ladies, Sister Agnes and Rio Tatsuki, the dates of your warnings and what was happening, kind of they seem to be very, accurate. And so pray for the world, and pray for the church, pray for Japan, and don't be naive in thinking that we could escape this. Again, it's not just Sister Agnes, it's not just Rio Tatsuki, it's not just we have been warned time and time again. We're just too stupid to realize that heaven does this, and heaven asks us to amend our ways. We're just too stupid to realize. It's not just the natural disaster, it's the political maneuvers that will happen after this disaster. So let's see what happens. God bless you. Take care. Bye bye.